Welcome to episode 91 of the World Builders Anvil. Today's topic, why we play games. Don't know where to start building your fantasy world? Do you need more? Does it make sense? Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination. This is the place that will help prime your mind. Now, it's time to heat up the forge, break out the mithril ingots and hammer. Welcome to the World Builders Anvil. I'm your host, Jeffrey W. Ingram. Let's sup from the mug of Java and build. We made it all the way through the intro without screwing with each other. For the listeners, I think that's a record. But today's topic is why we play games, and we were good not to play games with each other. And as a reminder, I am your humble host, Jeffrey W. Ingram, and I'm here today with
Michael Miller.
And we're here to talk about games. And we're not talking about those games that we play in relationships. We're not talking about...
What, those can't be part of the subject of the conversation?
Do you do those for fun?
What people do. I'm not. The games that I play with my wife are more to screw with her because I think it's important to keep her on her toes. I don't play relationship games. For me, it's like even when I was dating before getting together with my wife, I would say that what I was doing was just being playful. Like, I don't like misleading people or... Being
playful is fine, but when I say relationship games, I mean...
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean, and I think everyone else knows what you mean, like where you're, misleading. And
so I guess for some people that might be, but in general, we're talking more about games that we play, that are similar from my house to our neighbor's house to, at this point, Japan, maybe. Who knows?
Okay, so do we want to clarify... Do we want to clarify as we discuss game types? So like sports are games, board games are games, role playing games are games, tabletop.
Yeah, but it's
card games. Like,
but it's all kinds of games that we play, from sports to board games, things that we do that we think are for recreation, and they are
that we think.
We think.
We think. So there's games that we think are for recreation that are not.
Oh, they are for recreation, but you also have benefits, and that's the reason why we play games.
I think you wanted to cover something about why we started playing games. So do you want to talk about like what are our first games?
Our first games are probably sports, and they are probably stuff that involve running and hunting, because essentially one of the primary purposes of sports is to find out how good people are at things, because when you're in a hunter-gatherer society, the people with the best skills for hunting need to be hunting. The people,
right, to provide.
Exactly. But when they're children and they're not effective at doing it, you come up with games and you see
to hone those skills.
To hone those skills. And then, the difference between us and like lions play those games. If they're not good at hunting, they die. But for humans, once you start working in a tribal society, you start having people survive, and there are other tasks that they can do, but you identify your hunters. And then as the side benefit too is then these games also become a sport where, if you win the game, you're more impressive to the women in the tribe. You're more likely to reproduce.
Wait. Mm-hmm. If you win the game, you're more impressive to the women?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, so who's to say it's not women winning the game and they might be impressive to the men? Don't be so sexist, Jeff.
Well, I'm talking about historically, and historically, men do the impressive.
I am making a joke.
But there's actually some truth to what you're saying.
Oh, there's some more truth to it now, but there's a lot of truth to what you're saying about it. I was just pointing out
from a historical perspective, but there are some cultures that actually women were in the more dominant role in relationships than men, but it's very few and very far between in human society that I know of.
I think humans are prone to the relationships that we create where there's I think the majority of the world having at some point or currently in some places being male dominated is by human nature, not necessarily just by societal oppression.
Yeah.
I certainly think there is a big level of societal oppression.
Which is probably caused, but is it caused by human nature, or is it caused,
I think it started as human nature, and I think it's evolved. So just like our games have, where you have, our previous reasons were like, okay, well, the children don't know how to hunt, and we can't take them out on the hunt yet. So we will teach them these games that will slowly develop the skills they'll need until they're old enough. that we can safely bring them out on a hunt.
Exactly. And we can know about how they're going to perform when they start.
Mm-hmm.
It helps protect the current hunters, and it helps prepare the children so they're less likely to be slaughtered by
a wild animal
out there. So especially if you watch the documentaries, especially about Bushmen in Africa hunting game, they run them down. Literally, it's amazing the endurance these guys have.
Like the men will run an animal down.
Oh yes, it's kind of like watching a wolf hunt, but it'll take hours and hours. It'll take all day to get one kill, and they will literally just keep pushing it. When it starts to slow down,
oh yeah,
they'll move up.
Yeah,
and
that's
finally
how.
when it gets too weak, and that's a classic hunting.
That's
approach.
And
you
you get them scared and or injured. And then you chase until they need to rest, and you keep chasing, and then they have to move, and then you
keep dinging whatever you can.
Yeah. So that's how you take down something bigger than you, especially.
But that kind of leads to it, and I think the fun aspect of games comes about as societies start to develop, to where an activity might not be fun to practice, and so you add in elements of chance, and you add in what we would today call game theory to make it more exciting.
I can't believe you're mentioning this and I won't go off on a tangent.
This is where Jim would be very useful.
Well, Jim's useful in many scenarios, but certainly in this conversation. Yeah. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I actually just put on my wish list on Amazon multiple, I think definitely 2, maybe 3 books about gamification, about creating, and part of me looks at the problem as, it's because it's me, I'm the problem, is when you have someone like me who it overthinks a lot of things, and I'm going to use a very specific word for it. When you over intellectualize something, it's not necessarily that you're overthinking it. You are overthinking it, but there's a different level to it. I like to understand it all, but when I hyper understand a given thing, I can convince myself that something is either complete or doesn't need to be complete because I understand it. Like, so for example, I need to work out more. I'm not in terrible shape, but I need to work out more. Like I'm gaining a little bit of a gut. I need to get rid of that.
Yeah. You have to look more like me.
Yes, because you are an Adonis. So, like you couldn't even not laugh at that. Yeah. When I get up in the morning, like what I used to do, I would get up at 4 a.m., go to the gym, come home, make breakfast, get ready for work, yada, yada, yada. And for a while there, my wife was going with me. My wife's schedule prevents her from going with me these days. So it's very hard for me to have the alarm go off at 4 a.m. I'm warm and cozy in my bed with my beautiful wife. I don't like to get up in that scenario to go to the gym. I've been out of that practice for a year now. So I'm trying to get back into that. And I was listening to this thing about gamification, and I was like, wow, what a great idea to create a complicated.
We're expanding it to productivity and other areas.
Right. But the point is that you're creating an overly complicated system for something that should be simple, but that overcomplicated system satisfies the over intellectualizing that I do on what should be a simple task. And it creates a motivation for it. Yeah. So when we're talking about gamifying, I'm going to keep using that word for what we're talking about, because that's what they're doing. Gamifying hunting in an early, culture. They're making a game out of a standard practice and creating motivations like, oh, well, if you play this way and you do this thing, then you win. Yeah. And congratulations, you have won. Nothing has really been accomplished other than the skills have been developed so that they can go hunt. So it's the same thing with what I'm doing. I'm going to create a more complicated system. I'm actually going to probably use a modified GURPS system to create a pen and paper character that is me. And I'm going to be leveling myself up in real life and on paper so that I can quantify my efforts.
Well, your base stat should all start at 6.
No, come on. I'm a little better than that. But my point is, like, I've been neglecting the guitar. Like, I want to learn the guitar. I've been neglecting going to the gym. So all of these things, if I do some guitar practice, which I should do daily, but I don't. If I do some guitar practice, I can add some points to the sheet. If I go to the gym, I can add some points to the sheet.
I got something very good for you. I found it recently. I was actually looking, the productivity, they call it getting things done software I used to use was IQtel, and they're going out of business. So I was looking for a new thing to help.
So are they any good at what they do if they're going out of business?
They were. The problem was a lot of people found their subscription fee very high for that type of service. And so I was looking for a new one. And I found this one Nosby that I use, which is...
say it slower.
Nosby.
Nosby. Do you want to spell that?
No.
No, okay.
Good luck with me spelling that.
Well, no, my point is if you're going to mention it, do you want to...
I'll be putting it in the show notes.
All right.
And it's, which is very good for real sort of productivity kind of task management stuff. Mm-hmm. But along the way, I found something nifty. It's called Habit RPG. It is an Android app, and it might be on other devices too. It can be used as a simple task manager. It can be used as a habit builder.
I already like where you're talking.
Yes. Oh, you're going to like this because it is a character sheet. It has inventory. It has money. It has hit points.
I love it.
Which you can take damage if you don't do your tasks. I haven't played with it enough to be proficient at it yet. However, I do use the habit part of it. So there's certain activities.
Is that it right there?
That is it right there.
I'm going to download it right now.
Looks like a little treasure box for everyone who can't see.
Yeah, I was going to say it almost looks like a suitcase.
But no, it reminds me of a treasure chest for like a...
No, I get it. But because of the way the icon almost looks like it might be a satchel. But I see how it's a treasure chest too.
Yeah. But so it's a great way if you like games and you want to add games. But if you need a simple task manager, you can actually use it like as a task manager as well. It doesn't cover the needs I need for that. But for habit types of things like brushing my teeth a couple times a day, the cat litter, things that are simple that I need to do that are easy to throw off.
What I like to call life's paperwork.
That's right. Life's paperwork.
Life's red tape, actually, is normally what I call that. Like stuff that the dishes. No one likes doing the dishes. Laundry. No one likes doing laundry. You have to do it. You have to do it.
Especially once you don't live with your parents anymore.
Yeah. I was doing my laundry before.
And it's all dirty, but you know.
But yeah, like the idea of gamification, I think, is a brilliant way to keep motivated and be productive. But I think that it totally ties into.
And actually, as a software developer, that's something I try and push when I develop software. Or what are things that you can do to make people who are using your boring line of business application that they're forced to use for their job, something that encourages them to do it, rewards them in simple, non-monetary ways. You know, hey, how about we add a badge for this, or we allow them to do a Facebook share that they got so many tasks done.
I was reading the intro to one of those books that had this big thing about badges.
Yeah, badges are a huge one. And when you use productivity software, you'll see that a lot now.
Look at video game achievements. Look at merit badges. The Boy Scouts have been doing it for like 100 years. Anything like that where you get a small, what it is acknowledgement. Yeah. Like that's what we need. We need self-acknowledgement and we need the outside acknowledgement. We need something like that. I find that I can do good with self-acknowledgement. Yeah. Which is why I want to gamify, you know, my life because I do over intellectualize stuff and I have the capacity to work insanely hard and be very motivated. But I end up like getting in my own way about it. Like I have like 2 days a year where I get so much stuff done. It's ridiculous. If I could turn even 50% of my life into those 2 days, I would be so much more accomplished than I am. And that's what I'm shooting for. I mean, the ideal, of course, would be to be doing that, 90% of your life, the other 10% being where you're relaxing. You know what I mean? But anyway, getting us back a little harder on topic. So you're talking about impressing people. And the importance of that, especially in early cultures. You see that with dances. You'll see that with games. The males of species usually, and some you'll see that actually cross species. It's usually the male species that is more colorful. They'll do the battles with each other to show off to the women, sometimes killing each other to mate. And so there is some weird genetic component, I think, tied in. And I have to do more research on this. There are examples where there are species where the female will fight for the attention, and they usually have the larger weapons of the species to do the impressing, or the battling of each other, whatever is needed. So a lot of times, whichever gender does the attracting is the one that's bigger, stronger,
And I say that in a very loose term, but you know, they need those skills to attract the other mate. And so there's a biological component mixed in as well. But games are a great way of showing off. And that's, I think, why even athletics have a lot of the attraction to people today, because they feel it's a way to show off to the other species.
Yeah.
For the other species, that's a little creepy.
Going back to other gender, I think is the word you were shooting for there.
Oh, don't over-intellectualize this, sir.
You know, look, if I want to impress another species, I'm going to do it. I love the way my cat looks at me when I open the can. You know, what you just said a minute ago. You said games are a great way to impress, and I think that part of that should be stated as games were a great way to impress. I think that there's an aspect of it that's still true. What you're saying, like professional sports, certainly in America, where, you know, of course, you know, the guy
go to Boston and talk bad about Tom Brady to women. Yeah.
Well, my point is, I think that's a small arena. Like, there is very few professional football players. While there's a great many of them, if you cross-reference that with the entirety of the population, then we're talking a really small subculture of people.
You're not trying to necessarily impress the entire species or the entire gender of the world when you do it. You're doing it within your social group. So when you're at the table and you're gaming and there's boys and girls around the table, and it's not just the other gender for reproduction purposes, but it's for validation. So when you come over and like, oh, I need Mike in my game because he's a great gamer, that gives you validation because you've impressed me in your skills in the game.
My point about it is that I think that there's a ton of games and gaming that occur in the world that does not impress, or if it does impress, there's zero benefit to it. Yeah. And I think that that's borderline dangerous, certainly for social development.
Yeah, no, it definitely can work both ways, where you have these people who must get every achievement for the game on every mode and throw their lives away because all they do is play this game, and it's to have the Xbox or the PS4 tell them, hey, you've done a given thing.
Right. So like they're trying for that acknowledgement that they're clearly not receiving within their real life.
Yes. And one could be a signal.
And this is a hefty statement coming from me because I am such a big video gamer. Yeah. I am such a huge. I'm like, I mean, we've talked about this before, not much on the show, but I will be launching another podcast that will be almost all about gaming.
Oh, cool!
So
sounds like a really interesting show.
I know I'll listen to it, but some people would say that I just like the sound of my own voice.
Yes.
So for me to say that, like, I do acknowledge that there is a huge chunk of time that I spend playing video games that's wasted time. Now, my justification for it is I just love it.
Yeah.
I can easily justify it if I can get on playing socially. So like my friend, like I'm, like addicted to playing Destiny right now. Yeah. And my buddy Chris finally got it for his Xbox One. He's got an Xbox One and PlayStation 4. He got it on the PlayStation 4 because that's his preferred system. And I'm like, dude, get it.
So immature.
I'm like, get it on the Xbox so we can play together. Yeah. So now it's like I got my friend back because he doesn't live very close to me. We don't get together all that often, a couple times a year. We talk. Right. Yeah. So when I'm playing the game, like the guys that I play with, I'm close with. Like I've got a guy in Florida. I've never met him in person, but I feel he's a good friend because we talk, like we talk about our families and our jobs and all this stuff while we're playing the game. So my justification for is that it's not just the time spent, playing the game. It's also time socializing. And while socializing is important, the other aspect of is that if you're spending hours and days and weeks upon end playing a game and you're not socializing, you're not creating some sort of either social development, what's the word I'm looking for? Like when you're getting a real world benefit out of your fictionalized actions. If you're just doing it for the acknowledgement, which, and again, it almost hurts me to say this, that means nothing. It means zero. I like to tout every once in a while that I have every single achievement for the first Dead Space, which was a hard game. even to get all of them, you have to go through the whole game like 3 times on the hardest level. And that is a tough game to beat on the hardest level. I have done that.
Okay.
It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing.
Yes.
I really just did it because I loved that game so much. It was one of the best games on the 360.
Do you know what
Absolutely
I like to call
loved it. What's that?
Prosperity tax.
What do you mean? Prosperity
Tax.
Tax.
Mm-hmm.
Explain it.
My idea with that is when a culture or whatever gets big enough, there's enough prosperity that people have leisure time. We mismanage our time a lot more.
Yeah.
We have a lot more problems that don't exist in cultures that struggle on a day-to-day level to survive. Like depression is much more common in what we call first world countries than in other countries, because the problem is if someone's so consumed with depression, they're going to die very early. Because you need to be working almost all of your waking hours to be able to survive.
When I went to Detroit for our national youth gathering, one of the things that they had set up, one of their big campaigns was a fresh water campaign. And in the campaign, they're all just trying to raise money for all kinds of places that just don't have fresh water. So,
which is a really good thing for them to have.
Yes, a really good thing for them to have. One of the things that they had set up, we were in a convention center in Detroit, in the Cobo Center.
Woohoo.
Which what's the big one in New York?
Madison Square Garden?
No. The West Side Highway. I
don't know the name of the center.
I do know the name, but I had such a hard time remembering the name of it the other day. I was trying to think of it, and I was brain farting on it. Anyway,
the Intrepid?
Nope, that's the ship, which I believe is moved. Actually,
they moved it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they. Well, last time I was in New York, they had moved it. It was years ago, but they had moved.
Glad I don't work for UPS anymore. It's the only way I knew where to turn.
So anyway, in the convention center, they had set up this course within the downstairs where they had to pick up like big jugs. I'm calling them jugs, but basically like a gasoline sized canister, like a 5-gallon gasoline drum. Like if you ran out of gas on the side of the highway, this is what you would go fill up with and carry to your car. So they have these for water instead of being red like gas, they're blue. So they had all these ones filled up. And they said to the kids, okay, you pick them up here and you walk the course. So it's just like a trail they had set up. And within the course, they had obstacles that they had to climb over or like walk up and down steps and whatever.
Barbed wire, mud.
Nothing that significant. But it was meant to simulate. There are many people, poor African countries that they'll travel 3 miles. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but you have a car for just a few gallons of fresh water. So that they go back and that fresh water is used to drink, to cook, and whatever partially leftover water to wash themselves off with. So you've got a culture of people who you've got all these, because a lot of it is the women doing this. They walk the 3 miles, they get the water, they walk back. So they spend, part of their day just doing that. So by the time, the basic gist is by the time they're done accomplishing just what they need to survive is getting this water, they don't have enough time to educate themselves. They don't have enough time to have some kind of steady work, to have any kind of income to take care of the family. So you've got this self-perpetuating cycle of families not growing and achieving a better wealth so that they can take better care of themselves simply by the virtue of the fact that they are too far from the nearest clean water supply. I feel like I've gotten way off subject. There was a part of that tied into basic needs. Basic needs. Yeah.
So in wasting your time, your prosperity tax.
Yeah, the prosperity tax thing and gaming.
Exactly, because if you can't go get that water, you're at huge risk.
Yeah.
So it allows us, because of prosperity, to be able to do things that are worthless, and that's one of the reasons why you have to be careful when we talk about and I think this is kind of what you're getting towards, increasing important skills. There's really only so much you can do from gaming. The thing is, the nice thing with gaming, especially when you're young, is it helps show you, hey, maybe I am lucky. That might work out for me, but maybe I'm good at strategy games. Maybe I'm good at breaking down systems of different types of games. But it gives you an idea of what you are good at, what you are not good at. Like if you hate playing Monopoly because you think money's stupid, and then you go to college and go to Wharton Business School and spend, a couple $100,000 getting a business degree, and then you get out in the workplace and you realize you hate working with money and you wish you worked for a nonprofit. You wasted a bunch of money because you weren't paying attention to your games.
I like that I get to say one of my best friends and my brother, their career is because I love video games.
Yeah.
I'll explain.
Yes, please.
My brother and I got into a car accident when I was a freshman, and there was money that we got from that. We both got quite a few thousand. Not quite a few. It's not like I got like $8,000.
Like an insurance settlement?
Yeah, like in a settlement because we both got injured. So I think I got like $8,000 and my brother got like $12,000, but we weren't able to touch it until we were 18. So when my brother turned 18, of course, he spent some of his money on stuff. And when I turned 18, the only thing that I was able to buy that was a good thing was a computer. The only reason I wanted to buy that computer was that I could play Doom 2. So I just wanted, that's all I wanted. I wanted to play lots of Doom 2 and of course other games. Like I was a huge computer gamer at the time. So once I got that, and my brother didn't know anything about computers at the time. The only computer class that he took in high school was typing. I took intro to tech, intro to CAD, intro to basic computer programming, intro to animation. Like I did all this tech stuff.
Cool.
Which
animation class?
Yeah, we had an animation class. I loved it, and I also because I had a friend of mine that was big into it. Like we did real basic animation, but he knew he did 3D Autodesk animation and like CAD animation that would go into 3D Autodesk. So I got to play with software that was, expensive and I didn't have access to and whatever. But from there, so from me purchasing that computer and my love for video games, my brother got into it. And then my buddy Chris got into it. He got a computer. And then they created their own BBS. And then my buddy Chris, I think it was basically he got kicked off of a board that we used to go to all the time, and we got all these multi-line boards. This is before the internet was like this is just as the internet was burgeoning and people were and we
said bulletin boards. Yes.
Yeah, I know, but like a lot of people don't know what that is. Like if you don't know what a bulletin board is, it's a forum.
It's a forum before there's the web.
Yeah, before there were forums, there were bulletin boards. So all these multi-line boards. So my buddy got kicked off of one and he was like, oh, forget them. We're going to make our own board and we're going to make it better than theirs. And then they proceeded to do just that. But to do that, my brother and my buddy, Chris, needed to learn how to network. They needed to learn how to get their computers to talk to other computers. So in the process of them, just trying to create this thing. And my brother tried to make a business out of it. He tried to he was going to UConn at the time. So his thought was if he can get only 1% of the population there, he could live off that money.
Yeah.
He didn't, but
a lot of good skills,
He learned how to get computers to talk to each other. He learned how to network. He had to build it. He had to build all the infrastructure. He had a place rented out in like 2 towns away where it was an inexpensive place that he had all the equipment stored in. And my buddy Chris, same thing, had to learn how to network. Well, now my brother is an information systems manager for a Hewlett Packard distributor. My buddy Chris is a network engineer for a huge network engineering company. They both make great money and they love what they do. I just wanted to play video games, so I didn't learn those skills. I wish I had.
You just proved yourself wrong.
How?
Your worthless desire to get stupid awards that are meaningless led to 2 good careers still.
Well, right. And
not yours.
And not mine. And what I will say is that I owe my career to my brother because it was when he finished school and then was moving out because he was making the kind of money at the start of his career for the company that he still works for. He made enough money that he said, because I was in New York at the time. He's like, why don't you move back and I can pay for the lion's share of the rent. We can get a place together and you can go back to school. And, that's how I got into my career. But I still love video games. Yeah. Even though, and I acknowledge that except for like certain things about it, it's mostly wasted time.
Hold up. I'm being attacked by death claws right now in my vault. I'm sorry. I apologize. What were you saying?
I was talking about how video games are a waste of time.
Oh, okay.
Even though I'm about to launch a video game podcast.
Yeah. Well, in a way that's doing something productive with something you love,
Well, see, the way I look at it is it's something that I love, so I'm going to do it.
Yes.
I don't I don't care if it ever surfaces in a way that I can. I would love to be able to monetize. I'd love to be able to make a career out of just doing some sort of thing to the gaming for the gaming community with the gaming community. But if it never happens, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I just do it. I'm going to do it out of love because I just love it.
And loving something and doing it, if there's an audience for everything, if you can get it big enough, hey, who knows?
I don't know. If 2 people listen to it, and I think those 2 are just you and me, I'd be fine with that.
Jerks.
But so why we play games? Love for playing games.
Yeah. And that actually leads us to our next point too, which one of the reasons that we play games are they bring us relaxation and fun. And the relaxation and fun really start coming out more when there's enough prosperity to where you can stop for a few moments. Or I think a lot of early games too were things you could do while you're waiting for the next task. So you're out in the fields, maybe you can play some dice for a little while.
Something small.
Something small that you can carry with
Or
you.
even you just take a look at children who have not, granted, it's kind of tough these days. I'm going to go with children, say, 30, 40 years ago, because children these days have immediate access to games on cell phones. Yes. So, you see toddlers that they know more about technology than we did in our 20s.
Or at least how to consume it.
Or at least how to consume it, exactly. But my point is that they understand games more now. Like they have more exposure to games. They have more understanding of games than we did as kids. You think about us when we were kids. Yeah. If you're sitting around and you're bored, like parents, go outside. You're not allowed to stay inside.
Why are you in the house?
Why are you in the house? Get out, and you would make games. You'd create simple games with each other. My brother created a tag style game when we were kids that we would play with the neighborhood kids that we loved. We played it all the time in the summertime. We'd be out for hours.
Was he arrested for that?
No, why?
I got arrested when I did that.
You got arrested for a tag based game?
Yeah.
You got arrested for you got arrested?
For a tag based game.
You've been arrested.
For a tag based
I'm shocked about
it was a baseball bat, but
I don't understand.
Well, you tag with the baseball bat. And then
are you making a joke right now? Like this is... I'm
a fiction writer.
I lie.
And I lie.
Yes. I'm a fiction writer and I lie. Thank you for that. You're going to add that. You just love that line so much.
That might become the tagline.
Yeah. I'm a fiction writer and I lie.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm so shocked. I'm like, when have you been arrested? You've been arrested?
Which time?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was waiting for. I'm like, you've been arrested more than once.
Let's not talk about the Tijuana thing,
yeah.
But... Yeah.
I've got Tijuana stories. They're not my stories. It's a friend of mine's story. But yeah, I am very passionate about games. So like the show that I'm going to do is not going to be just video games, but a lot of it will be. But like I love board games. I love card games. I love dice games. I have dice games.
And I'm very upset I can't go to your board game night tomorrow because I'm behind on my writing.
It's not tomorrow. It's not.
I thought it was the 5th.
That's not tomorrow.
What
today's the 28th. It's not till next week, I think.
Well, then I probably can go. I'm off by a week.
Great. So anyone that's not invited, we're going to be playing Zombicide, which is a fantastic board game.
Which will teach us survival skills.
Probably not. I don't know that it'll show you some potential skills that
Do you know
could
what
be.
Most games teach us today? How to break systems. How to game systems.
Yeah.
That's really what they are.
I don't know that they teach it so much as the human condition.
You learn that.
The human condition is prone to gamers know the term as metagaming. How do I game the system? How do I figure out how to get the most advantage within the confines of the game? How do I break the game?
Well, like here's the simple one. As I have played Fallout Shelter now. Mm-hmm. And so one of the issues you have in that game, I don't know if you've had a chance to play it or not.
I started downloading it the other day, but I haven't played it.
When you start getting to a certain number of people, you get these Deathclaw invasions of your vault. And the Deathclaws tear through rooms, and all of a sudden you have all these unprepared rooms. You don't have enough firearms. They start killing people. It could turn into a financial and a vault nightmare because of these attacks. Mm-hmm. So... and you probably do this in real life too. If you were really being attacked by Deathclaws,
I have a similar problem.
You figure out the pathing of them, and you realize, oh wait, this is a tower defense game. or that this part of this game is really a tower defense.
The stage of the game is tower defense.
Where do I place my guns?
Where do I bottleneck them so that I know here's where I can stage my defense?
Well, you can't bottleneck them. That's the problem. But
well, do they bottleneck themselves?
But they go a certain path, the same path every time.
Okay.
And, usually by that point, you have raiders before that, but they usually, your first room is pretty set, and the raiders go in there and they die. And then you get these death claws, and they spend 2 minutes hurting things, and they do a lot more damage, obviously. They're much tougher. But then they spend less time in the room, so then they're in the next room, and then they're in the next room, and before you know it, they're on the 5th floor. And by
then, they're completely
unchecked. Way through all your weapons
and
watch your people die.
Yeah. See, I have a similar such problem with Clash of Clans. So with Clash of Clans, like I'm just trying to get past a part that same sort of thing. It's a tower defense style game where I find that there's a speed and then a stop for a long time in that game. So you have a moment of growth where once you breach a certain level of the economy and you have an influx, you have a rush of the economy and you're kind of unstoppable for a little while there, and you get to build and build and build. And then you get to a point where
I need money.
Not so,
or whatever.
Yeah, you need resources, but you're getting wrecked so hard that the amount of time that you have where you can't be attacked and you are receiving your resources is the amount of resources you receive in that safety time is less than what they can take away from you in a very brief amount of unsafe time.
Okay.
So you're playing this game where basically you're trying
to spend a lot right now.
Well, you're
or
trying,
else I might lose it.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're in this thing where you're basically trying to dig yourself out of a sand hole that is continually caving in on you. Yeah. I'm sure you're familiar with that analogy. So but this stems from you talking about gaming the game. Like that's what games teach.
Yes.
So what else do you mean by that?
Pretty much what I said.
You didn't have more elaboration for it.
Not really. I mean, the idea is you observe, and these are actually really useful skills in life. You observe what's going on. You identify the problems that you run into in the thing, and you test ways to get past it.
Is this?
And when we get stuck, we delete the game.
Actually,
which is the bad skill that you learn from.
Yeah, you give up. What I was going to say is that really what the games teach these days,
not intentionally,
or not necessarily that what they're teaching as it so much as is a byproduct of the games these days, or is that something that we have evolved into because of all the games we get exposed to?
We naturally do that as humans.
Okay,
this is what being human is. And, the thing of being human is you learn the obstacles in your life and you try and find ways around them. And sometimes you get stuck at certain areas and you need help to either get past that area from other people but it's all about learning and identifying the differences because of the number of games that you can feed off of right away. You actually have an advantage because at a much earlier age, you can get a lot of repetition in. And obviously, when you're a kid, that's when you really learn.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see in 10 years the kids who are coming up, playing bubble games and all of these different games that they're learning at very, very young ages now. Can they abstract problems better and solve problems better? I think they will.
I don't even think you need to ask the question. I think that's true to a degree because I also think that it's going – I think it also – I'm going to get into a different thing for a second.
Don't be too philosophical.
Well, not philosophical, but a little social. I think that a big part of our digital lives, and of course the gaming is a very big part of that, is really putting a punch in our social structure.
Sure.
And,
definitely.
But not only the obvious, do people know how to socialize as well now as they did 10, 20 years ago?
We speak in smaller.
Right. It's not as clear. The communication isn't as clear because everyone speaks.
We want to read and consume smaller content as well. Huge.
But I'm also talking about the lack of development in general. One of my big things in life is the underdeveloped idea of masculinity in modern American society. And what is that too? Is that too intellectualized? Did I just blow your mind?
Big words.
Well, it's seriously an important thing to me because I think that one of the reasons women have such difficulty with men these days is because men don't know how to be men anymore. Men growing up in modern...
I've heard this idea.
Men growing up in modern societies, in modern American society very specifically, are not taught how to be a man. They are encouraged to be adolescents until into their 30s. I mean, you take a look at your average 30-year-old these days. You know, they're not a full-fledged adult until around 30 or 35.
But see, the question ultimately is, though, are they better when they hit their full stream? They're going to live longer. Maybe that's a change needed because lives are going to be longer.
I think that a person, and I'm not going to like specify that that person be man or woman, should be an adult by the time the law recognizes them as an adult. I think they should. I don't think that I don't think that pretty much anyone really has a handle of appropriate adult decision-making skills when they're 18 years old. I think that you probably really come into that closer to 28, but you should at least be responsible enough to contribute to society and not be a burden to it at 18.
But you do know that that number has changed over the years, right?
What do you mean?
When you went through your rite of manhood in most primitive cultures, you're 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now it's 18, 19, 20. Maybe it should be 25.
No, I think it should be 13, 14, 16. I think that we should be that's another big thing that I could totally go on and on about, the rites of passage. Did you have one? I didn't. I mean, people, Americans, I had
to get to the fridge by myself and bring my father beer. What else is there?
Yeah. But my point is,
you're now a man.
The idea of there should be a certain amount of task, a rite of passage that acknowledges you are developing as a person.
Sure.
Specifically, I'm referring to men, that you from this day forward, if you accomplish X things, and I think some of it should be physical, I think some of it should be emotional, and some of it should be responsibly economical for a modern society. Like, a kid coming up these days doesn't need to learn how to balance a checkbook. I haven't needed to balance my own checkbook in years. I used to. I know how to, but I don't do it because I do everything online. Now, I think that what's that face?
I would disagree with that. I think the problem is a lot of people don't understand timing and transactions and stuff. It's not all real time. And people even today, even though the transactions are faster, will still sometimes get burned because they look at the money and go, oh, I still have $400.
Not realizing that there's something about to drop that day that they paid for it. Well, right. That's fine. But my point is, do you think your average high schooler knows how to balance a checkbook?
No.
Do you think your average high schooler has ever even needed to use a checkbook?
Well, you're not allowed to have checkbooks from most banks when you're underage. My
point is that I think that in part of my concept of creating a rite of passage for the modern American male is that there should be some economical intelligence and maturity.
Whatever that might be.
Might be. And I'm just using the checkbook as an example. There should be a physical requirement to it to encourage the primal aspect of being masculine.
Sure.
I.e. games.
And plus, I also would argue that if you become over-specialized, that in itself could be a danger.
Yeah.
So being physical and mental is good.
Right. So, and some sort of emotional aspect too. So, because a person should be well-rounded. So I don't even know how I got here.
I don't know.
we were. What was the gaming thing that you said before? Because this point that I'm making,
I was talking about relaxing and fun.
It was spawned from something that you said, though. Like, and there was actually another thought prior to that I wanted to add to, and I can't remember what it is at this point because I've been just yapping for the past 5 minutes.
Yes.
Well, do you want to just get to the next number on the board, or do you want me to complete this in some way?
Well, if you can wrap it up, but
I think most of the point is simply just that, like, because we encourage there's so much gaming that lends to an extension, an unnecessary extension of adolescence and a subsequent encouragement of lacking developing being an adult. So I think that there's a piece of gaming culture that is hindering us as a culture.
Maybe.
As much as I love gaming culture, I absolutely love it. But at the same time, I also have a decent career. I know how to handle my economics. I have a healthy relationship.
Like you paid hard for your gaming.
Yeah. What's that?
Sounds like you paid hard for your game.
I don't know that I've paid hard for it. But why do you say it that way?
Well, are you less masculine?
I don't think so. I think my career is pretty masculine. I have a great relationship with my wife. I contribute to my church community. I do. I'm one of my youth group leaders. So I have a well-rounded life. But I think that I'm an exception to the rule.
Sure.
So, I think there's an aspect of modern gaming that doesn't help us. So, I know how I got here because you were talking about how games nowadays don't necessarily contribute to skills the way they previously did.
It's just different.
That's how we got here. That's how I got here.
I won't go into my counter argument here right now because for necessity of time.
Well, how are we doing on time? We got to be close to an hour at this point, right?
We're approaching, yeah.
Okay.
So, but it's okay because we're hitting the home stretch here. And
will you give me like the 3-sentence version of your counter argument? Because maybe we could bring this up on a whole nother show.
Okay. My 3-sentence argument is what you just said there has been spoken by every generation when they're adults since the beginning of man.
Which is
in this country, especially kids today, just aren't as responsible as they used to be. And it's true in a way, but it's different in a way because cultures always change. There was a huge argument against writing and reading because it took away from the oral tradition.
Oh, you said writing, but the way you enunciated that, it sounded like you said rioting.
Right. Yeah. When they started writing, that was a problem, according to some.
So it sounded like you said rioting and reading. And I'm like, wait a minute, these are bad. Why are you chalking reading in with rioting? That doesn't sound right.
Those two things together are dangerous.
It's a dangerous combination. We don't want people reading about things and then rioting about them.
And definitely things have changed tremendously. Mm-hmm. But, there was an argument to not go away from the oral tradition because it changed the way people communicated. It was dangerous because we were more irresponsible. And the fact was, things changed tremendously because of it. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's better or worse, but cultures evolve by doing experiments and things end up getting thrown away. People who don't keep up with the culture end up not reproducing and having kids as much, and they're less successful, which is unfortunate.
I think
but that's the way
I disagree with you there because there's you've seen the movie Idiocracy, right? That's an extreme version of what I think that we do deal with in this country, where you have people on the lower economic scale and the lower intellectual scale because of lack of education, lack of money for education, but they are reproducing more than people that are educating themselves and are, you know what I mean?
You're assuming that means they're less successful. Or they're more successful.
I think they're a bigger burden to society. I don't think they're helping the culture progress in any way. I think they're just taking up space.
We'll hold that for an economics episode.
It is an economics discussion, absolutely. Yes. But
because there are arguments both ways. Because one, you can't specialize in a skill if you don't have someone doing other tasks for you, which is one of the
true.
So there's a lot of arguments going on. So
I know this was supposed to be about games. We've gotten into American masculinity. We've gotten into social economic problems. Didn't we talk about?
And there will always
things?
be problems, and society will always be trying to evolve its way out of problems, which will create some benefit and some problems because there's a cost to everything. Now, just a few things to take away from our little discussion of games today. If you listen to the first 2 minutes of the episode,
right? There's only about 20 minutes of there that was actually gaming related.
But is this idea that games will evolve with cultures and sports? It's ways, especially early on, and it will change with tech level as a society grows and has the ability to do more things. But it's a way to learn about yourself. It's a way to gain skills. And it can turn bad at times too, but it will also, it's a way for a society to express itself and to grow forward going out. It shows the evolution of a culture.
Part of me wants to say that maybe we should do either a part 2 or at least another games episode, because I feel like there's definitely stuff
there's
here.
There's a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, that's underdeveloped in the conversation, like the importance of gaming in a culture. Mm-hmm. And just like what you just said, the important skills that you can get from it.
Yes.
Because I certainly got a lot into the negative aspects of it.
Yes.
But we can do a whole other show on that.
Yeah. There'll be another show down the road on games.
Oh, you're going to make me wait more for games?
Wait
it's like
more
my
for
favorite
games.
thing.
Well, I don't know that we talk about masculinity.
I don't know. Well, it's important. I believe in it.
Well, it exists. Okay.
Yes, I've done it.
That's right. I win.
Problem solved.
Okay.
So what's the world builder task for the day?
It is create a game for your world. And we didn't really talk about how to create games, but just look at some games that you love.
That's an episode right there. How to create games.
Yes, I'm pretty sure we'll talk about
that's
that
an episode. Like that's an episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But we'll talk a bit about how to create games in a different episode. But right now, just look at your cultures and start gathering some of the information you'll need to do that. You know, what are the important skills to the culture? Pick a time period because that's
I was just about to say, what's the tech level that you're going to create this game in? Like
so wherever you like to tell your stories at, pick that tech level because we'll do a game there or a game that leads you up.
Like to give a perfect example, like if you have the hunter-gatherer tech level, of course they're going to do things that are going to encourage how to become a better hunter. Yeah. But one of my favorite games within a game is in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Mm-hmm. There's a game in that called Pazak. And I'll probably talk about this when we get to another gaming episode. Yeah. It's a card game. It's just a gambling, almost very, very strategized. You would like it because there's a simplistic level to it, but it's also kind of, there's some depth to it too. It's almost like I'm not going to say it's like Magic the Gathering. It's like Magic the Gathering in that you have a deck and they have a deck and you pit the decks against each other.
A collector card.
It's nothing like, it's nothing like Magic. It's more of a numbers. It's really a numbers game. But that game fits in that world because the technology level is much higher. Mm-hmm. So it's a
where a more primitive one might be hide and seek.
Yeah, I was actually going to say
and I don't have actual knowledge of that, but my belief is that's probably where hide and seek comes from is the practice
of hiding from danger.
Of one, hiding from danger, and two, stealthily sneaking up on prey. It's both ends of it.
Well, see, the funny thing is like we kind of skipped over like the very first games that naturally occur. And I think one of the first ones is peekaboo.
I see you. Well, for kids. Yeah.
Well, for infants, I mean, that's like one of the first things you do is peekaboo. And that is a game.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. Yeah. But we'll talk more about that when we're talking about creating games.
All right. So what is our world builder task for the day? Oh, that was our world builder. What's our real world task?
We are stunningly on fire and on topic today, folks. Okay, so the real world task for today is why do you like your favorite game? And think about it in depth too, because I much like Michael, like to overanalyze things if people haven't noticed. Is what are the kinds of things that are happening in the game? Are there potential skills that are involved in the game, or is it a game of pure luck?
Or is it a game of addiction? Like, do you like the game? As before in the discussion, we talked about how you can. We actually didn't use the word addiction to it, but are you addicted?
There's a lot of talk about that today.
Yeah. Are you addicted to the fact that the game acknowledges you for doing certain things within it? So maybe there are games that I have not liked playing that I played a ton because there was this constant reward aspect to it. Yeah. And there's certainly tons of game design and game theory.
Good game design.
That's built in. Yeah. It's very important because if they build that in, people will keep playing it and subsequently keep paying for it.
Yeah. Which is one reason I don't think I stick with mobile games very long. They don't have a lot of depth and stuff that for me gives me the feedback I want that keeps me playing.
Yeah. Like the game, like the Call of Duty games, that's a big deal. Like the reward systems and like how you slowly unlock things and get stuff
and how funny it is. Like you talking about achievements earlier. I remember, and this was a couple of years ago at this point, but it was when my nephew was living with us. He asked me once if I had gotten an achievement for, I don't know if it was Skyrim or something I was playing. And I was like, I'm not looking at achievements. How do you say, I've seen them pop up on the screen saying you get an achievement, but I don't know if I got that one. How do you even check that? I didn't even know because it meant so little to me.
Yeah, I didn't care.
I mean, it's kind of cool when you see it pop up on the screen, but for me, that's the lifespan of me caring about an achievement.
Yeah. For the 360, there were certain things that there was a little while there where I did like getting certain achievements for certain games. Yeah. I am still at heart what I'm going to call a natural, like a true gamer, where for me, it's about the game. Not about the reward for the game, but the game, like the enjoyment I get out of the game.
Yeah. And for me, that's where I pretty much play games. But if you change it from achievement and call it a quest and tell me I need to get 10 of them, then I have a lot more trouble not doing it. But if I don't enjoy it, I stop.
Yeah, that's true. So why do you like the game that you love?
Excellent.
And make sure, and I encourage you to over-intellectualize it. Do you really like that game? Like, make sure that you do like that game, and it's not that you just play it out of either habit or acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't actually like the game you're playing.
And it might be a good topic for your show is, what is game addiction? Is it real?
Oh, it will definitely be.
Yeah.
It
So
will
it sounds like
definitely
a
be
one for your show. Okay, now books is going to be the tease.
Wait. See, I was going to say that. You're like, oh, books. I'm like, no. Tease them with it.
Okay. Well, there, I'll stop talking about books now, and they'll be really teased.
So, Jeff, what's the tease for the next episode?
The tease for the next episode are books.
I didn't see that coming at all.
Yes. There was actually a question from one of the listeners of the show.
And thank you so much for interacting with us, guys. We love it. Like emails, Twitter, the whole nine.
Yep. Especially Twitter. I try to interact in there whenever I can. Books.
I'll be honest. I'm not.
But this was actually a Facebook. Yeah.
I have a Twitter, and I know I've put it on the show before, but I never look at it. So that's on me. I got to start looking at it more.
Yeah.
Well, so talk about the Facebook page so like people can.
Yeah. So if you go to garduel.com and click on the Facebook icon, it will take you to, I believe it's called Garduel Stories, is the actual name of the page.
The page, yeah.
But I don't know, because I only ever go there because it's like in my list now. So.
But I mean, do you put stuff on the Facebook page to contribute? Do you put little things on there?
It's been dead the last couple of weeks because I'm changing the service I use to deliver content to it.
Gotcha.
But episodes get listed in either Facebook or on Twitter, and I'm going to set up a system where they get pushed over to Google Plus as well. And soon we'll be putting them all live on YouTube. Well, not live, but we'll be putting them all on YouTube as well.
Yeah. And so really, I can't encourage you guys enough. Like, please, feel free to, we're approachable. We're accessible.
Yes. And I talk to people all the time in emails. And if it's questions about where to go in your world, if it's questions about things about my world, if it's questions about Michael, either one.
Yeah. Either one.
Let us know. And I do, if you ask people who've emailed me, I email back everyone I can who emails me. And that's usually the way I interact with most people, to be honest.
Yeah.
And my preferred way.
And I would be remiss, and certainly the producer would slap me later, if I didn't say, if you are going to be making any purchases off of Amazon anytime soon, and certainly you can take stuff off the show notes, as we mentioned, products that we like and that we want to share and encourage you guys to look into, go to www.garduel.com/Amazon. It'll just take you straight to Amazon, and the show gets a kickback, which helps the show to continue bringing you content like this.
Do you know what I really like about that, though?
What's that?
It does not add a dime to the purchase price for the listener.
Oh yeah, it doesn't change anything. Yeah, like not a thing.
If there's a sale, it's the same sale price.
Like it doesn't add anything to your purchase. It's going to be the same as if you just went to Amazon straight. It just helps the show.
It just helps the show. And if you knew Michael and I in real life, you would know we need all the help we can get.
Well, certainly Jeff does.
Certainly Jeff does. The producer would not argue with that.
I would say that it has been a super tease at this point, because though you've mentioned books, you haven't completed what the tease is for the next episode.
So the tease for the next episode, and the question itself was based off of an article, which I'll talk about in the show. But is it good to read the genre you write in, or especially for writing, for something you're planning to sell? I have to caveat that, because if you're making a role-playing game and you want to steal stuff, from books, I say give the person credit where you got it from, but you're not selling that as a product. That's one thing. But if you're making a product to sell to someone, like I'm a fantasy writer, I don't read fantasy, and we'll get into why, and we'll probably argue over it, and hopefully other things as well. And the other thing we'll talk about is, what are the kinds of books as a world builder do I read?
And what ones shouldn't you read?
And what ones shouldn't I read? Exactly. So we will see you then. And as always, make sure to go to garduel.com. That's GARDUL.com for the show notes. It'll be under podcasting, World Builders Anvil. That's a great place to get all of the information from the episode that you've just listened to, and to see all the resources that we've talked about in this episode. Thanks for joining us this episode of the World Builders Anvil. Please be sure to rate and review us in iTunes, and please help get the word out to your friends about our show. And join me, Jeffrey W. Ingram at Garduel.com to see the progress of my world and learn why I made the choices I did. And please contact me and let me know the topics you would love to hear in the future. Now strike, where the myth rolls high.